Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review the 1996 heist action film, Set It Off. But before we get into it, we need you to go on in there and like, share, and subscribe to the Wright Perspective Podcast. Want to let you know we have so enjoyed being a part of your family, your house, your week, your time, your downtime, but we are winding down. And so we want to make sure we get all those likes and subscribes in so that if we down the line resume, we'll be able to make sure that you know that we're coming back. But in the meantime, we're in countdown mode. We've got 6 episodes left after today, and then that'll be the end of the Wright Perspective for now. But we just thank you so much for riding with us all these years.
Yes, thank you for all your comments, your likes, your shares, all the things.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. And we came up with a great list to wrap things up. And today we are talking about Set It Off. Okay. I got to tell you, this film stars Jada Pinkett, Queen Latifah, Vivica A. Fox, Kimberly Elise, rather. The film was directed by F. Gary Gray and written by Kate Lanier and Takashi Buford. The film made $41.6 million on a budget of $9 million. Okay. And for some, that budget alone would be enough to consider this movie a classic, that box office. But today we will determine whether it is a classic from the Wright perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But we got to start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hello, everyone. I know you are so sad you won't be seeing me very much longer. I am Brittany, and I am the youngest.
She's in the mood today. Right.
Clearly. But I want to let y'all know, even as the podcast winds down, you have our social media handles. So always feel free to, we hope you'll continue to follow us and check on us because we do love being in touch, you know. So you will always get to, if you ever want to see, if you ever need a Brittany fix, you know where to find her, right? Well, let's hop in, y'all. I got to tell y'all, this one for me, and part of it I think is the timing. It came out, you know, in 96. I was full on in my teen years. This film for me, like I have the VHS still. There's a handful of movies where I just have the VHS and I have it displayed on my bookcase, and that is one. You know, I recently put them in storage just to make some space, but that just to give you a sense of that movie to me. It was significant for me when it came out, you know. Part of it was that it was Black women, you know. The other part of it is that I do like a heist film. Brittany knows, like heist films are like my secret favorite, you know. And so I have fond memories of just the experience of like the watching of it. Now, obviously, it's not a super fun set of storylines, but I do have like positive memory of watching it. And this was not your first time seeing it, Frederick, right?
I think this was my first time. I think this was my first time because I think what happened is somehow I saw the end of it back then, like not when it was out, but like, you know, once the VHS came out or something, I ended up seeing the end, and everybody would always talk about how it was a heartbreaking movie or whatever, and I just never got around to watch it. So I think this was the first time that I watched it all the way through.
Yeah. What about you, sis? You had seen it, right?
Well, all of these movies that they came out in the late 80s, early 90s, all of them are movies that I just wasn't allowed to see.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so I do believe at one point there were a few that I snuck in when I used to work at the library. And I feel like this is one of them that I maybe rented at the library and was able to go watch it. But for the most part, I just remember watching Set It Off, like when BT had it playing. And so I think this was my first time, I'll say in a long time, watching it full through.
Sure.
And I was like, ooh, it's a good movie, honey. But my it took all the emotions. It was like, oh, there's so much going on. What? And the ham and cheese. So.
Yeah.
It's
well,
heavy.
that's it's heavy. Oh, it's heavy. That's a great segue to kind of talk about the voting symbol. What voting symbol would you use for a movie like this? This is tricky. Did y'all come up with anything?
Yeah, I have one. It's not very imaginative, obviously, but I can't really think of anything. Yeah, we'll go through how we normally go through.
Okay, so normally, I will come up with a voting symbol or two that really gets to the symbolism in the film. Aubrey will pick some voting symbols that are, they are iconic, and Brittany just will get on here without any preparation whatsoever. Okay, and
because I forget.
throw out random words and phrases.
And they're always really what good.
Happens.
They're really good. You're welcome.
Well, I will tell you, my morning has not gone as planned. As you can see, I'm sitting in a playpen. So I did not have a chance to think about, a voting symbol. I don't know why I didn't think about doing it until this morning, and I couldn't get to anything I really liked quickly. So, bro, I'm interested to see what you got.
Well, I really was thinking of the Desert Eagle that Cleo was shooting because...
Oh, it's a gun? A Desert Eagle is a gun?
Yes. And first of all, the way they were having her shoot it was just very 90s. Because it's like...
So 90s.
There's no way you could... If you've ever shot a gun or if you shot a regular gun, just imagine way worse. And like, but that's one of those guns that they have in movies, and they'll just have people, you know what I'm saying, shooting them like it's no big deal. And I think that's the one she had when she was talking about setting it off. Like she was like, this is what we need to set it off, type of situation. So either that or her Uzi that she had at the.
Well, bro, guns. Come on.
It's funny because I thought of a lot of things that there are things that it feels like pertain to maybe one of them or the other, or something specific. But when you're thinking about the concept of set it off, I mean, that's where.
Well, if you're gonna get
that's what you're thinking.
I'm just saying that.
If your offering is guns, then I must share my half-baked idea. I must. Okay.
Sure.
My half-baked idea, I didn't get a chance to fully flesh out, was the janitor uniforms. And because for me, there's something about all of this that is just, even like, these women are not bank robbers. Like, this is not who they are. So there's just something about like putting on, like a uniform to just do what you got to do, and then, you take it off and you get to be yourself again. It felt like there were so many places in their lives where they were like putting on a uniform, you think about.
And it was also the gateway for all of them, because all of them working there is that's
absolutely,
because if Frankie never, she just kept working at the bank, they wouldn't have had the joint frustration that it took.
That erupted.
Yeah.
Also to Sean's son, wouldn't have gotten injured, sick, poisoned.
Yep.
And also remember that's where they had hid the money and it got stolen because they hid it at work.
Absolutely.
The money got stolen by their boss.
Yep.
So,
not bad. So the
I didn't get to fully flesh it out, but it's like the janitorial uniforms.
Uniform, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. I like it.
All right.
I like
nice.
It. I like it. I knew mine was imaginative.
I can't believe you got on here and said that.
But I think okay.
He first of all did not.
I don't think my idea was ridiculous.
We had guns as a symbol for so many things.
It hasn't been so
He
many.
didn't say guns. He said
Every police
a
thing.
specific
And it was a very specific gun I was talking about.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a very specific gun I was talking about.
Phoenix.
And that is when they said they were going to set it off.
It's true. And you do
That
need
is
guns
when they
to
said
set
they
it
were going
off.
to set it off.
You need guns to set it off.
And that's when they about to set it. That's the part in the movie where
it's
everybody
a critical ingredient
where everybody would have cheered a little bit.
Exactly. Well, listen.
What you got, sis?
Both of yours were going to be in my rattling off of things.
Right.
And I will still put them there. You're welcome. Here we go. Guns, janitorial outfits, that iconic scene where they're sitting on the roof. Also the mask.
That sounds like a Genia one.
I like
it so good.
I can go deep on that.
Listen, it's so much being able to see it, but you can't touch it. It's a lot. It's so much happening. And then you also got
just trying to get some air.
Yes, the masks and the wigs that they wore. You also have a 40. Okay. You have
you know what? I'm derailing this whole situation. I think we all agreed that the janitorial suits are a good idea. Wow, derail Brittany at the 40.
I have more.
No, we're not.
Please don't.
Please don't.
Haircuts.
Stop.
Acorn projects. That's what started this all off. Okay.
You know,
another part that got us deep into it.
I have been so focused on the parts of the podcast that I'm going to miss. I forgot about the pieces that I won't miss once we stop.
You said the pieces that you'll miss the most? It's okay. I can absolutely call both of you, and you both know I will, with no just sense of anything. Wow. I call with one piece of topic, and I'll keep you on the phone for at least an hour. You're welcome. You both love it. Which, bro, I still owe you a call back to talk about Bad Boys 4. Excellent. So,
well, you know, just a quick segue on that. We recapped the Bad Boys franchise. So you all should dig that up. We should dig it up and share it out. Maybe y'all go look it up and see if it's good quality, and then I'll promote it.
Excellent.
Because y'all know some of our earlier stuff, and we didn't quite have our audio and video together.
Doesn't matter.
Some of it I don't bring back to the forefront.
You should bring it back. You should bring it back. We always need to know from whence we've come.
That's right.
Bring it back.
That's right.
Bring it
back.
Well,
bro, take it away for the recap. If you're new to our podcast, we always do a recap because our stuff is old. Okay, our most of our content has come out the archive. So spoiler alert, you know, also we do a recap because some people haven't seen the content but they just want to be a part of our super fun discussion. And so then that's why we do a really robust spoiler-filled recap. Take it away, bro.
All right. I'm going to get through this as fast as I can, but there were just a lot of pieces to this thing.
Yeah.
All right. The movie opens with Frankie working hard as a bank teller in a job where she has obviously had some success. The day turns immediately horrible as Frankie realizes the bank is being robbed. The thieves are extremely volatile, and the robbery results in several casualties. Frankie ends up being fired as a result of the robbery for not executing the proper protocol for bank robberies perfectly, and the fact that at least some of the bank robbers were from her neighborhood. Frankie goes to work at Luther's janitorial services with her three best friends, Stoney, Cleo, and TT. The owner, Luther, treats them with disrespect constantly and pays them a minimum wage. Tired of working a low-paying job, Frankie explains that they should actually rob the bank themselves. Cleo agrees off top, but Stoney and TT are reluctant. However,
and bro, let me say who the actors are, just so people will know if they haven't seen it. So Frankie is Vivica A. Cleo is Queen Latifah, Stoney is Jada Pinkett, and TT, Tashawn, is Kimberly Elise. You
know what? I guess that is part of the recap.
Well, we got it. Box checked.
All right. Box checked. All right.
I'll sprinkle in the actor names if needed.
All right.
Because I just have it up in front of me.
All right. Sounds good. Now, where is that? All right. Okay. Tired of working low-paying jobs, Frankie, tired of working a low-paying job, Frankie explains that they should actually rob a bank themselves. Cleo agrees, but Stoney and TT are reluctant. However, after Stoney's younger brother, Stevie, is gunned down by the police in a case of mistaken identity, a tragic case of mistaken identity with one of the bank robbers from Frankie's bank and TT's son taken away. He was mistaken with one of the bank robbers, mistaken for one of the bank robbers from the robbery at Frankie's bank. And TT's son ends up getting taken away by Child Protective Services because she has such low wages. They now also have the motivation to go ahead and go through with this bank robbery plan. While casing a bank with TT, Stoney meets bank manager Keith Weston. You want to
Blair Underwood?
Yeah, played by Blair Underwood.
Yeah,
whom she starts dating. The four women embark on a series of successful bank robberies due to Frankie's inside knowledge of bank protocol with money and security. LAP detective Strode, who was also part of Frankie getting fired, starts investigating the robberies. Strode suspects that Cleo, because of her prior convictions, and Frankie, because of her being attached, in his mind, at least on some level, to the prior bank robbers, and Stoney, because of her brother's death in the shootout while they were trying to apprehend the bank robbers. This all gives them motivation to become involved in, in this bank robbery scam. But his superiors refuses to allow him to bring them to questioning because he doesn't feel the evidence is sufficient. Obviously, this is a very, very touchy situation because Stoney's brother did get shot by mistaken identity. Concerned with the safety of their money, the four women stashed the money in the air vent on one of their work sites. However, when Cleo, Frankie, and TT show up to work one day and find a new boss in charge without any prior notice, they quickly realize that Luther had discovered the money and fled with it. While Stoney attends the banking event with Keith, the three women track Luther to a motel where he is sleeping with a prostitute. The women demand the return of their money, but Luther refuses to give it up and pulls a gun on Cleo, forcing TT to shoot him in self-defense. And I just want to put something in just in parentheses here that TT was the most reluctant out of all of them to join this. So this is a very crazy moment where she's actually the one who escalated this all the way up to murder in this moment. But Cleo was in danger. So what could she do? So Cleo is soon brought in by Strode over questioning for Luther's murder, but manages to intimidate the prostitute in not identifying her. Later, after hearing what happened, Stoney is disappointed and angry with Frankie and TT about the missing money, Luther's death, and Cleo being brought in for a lineup. They debate robbing another bank, but Stoney is reluctant due to all the police attention. Eventually, Frankie and Cleo persuade Stoney that they need to rob another bank and leave town the next day. The women decide to rob Downtown Federal Bank, the city's largest bank and Keith's place of work. Concerned for Keith's safety and not wanting him to know she's a bank robber, Stoney calls Keith and tells him to meet her at a cafe far from the location of the bank. The four women quickly execute the robbery, but Cleo demands that TT gets more money, which gives Strode enough time to arrive with reinforcements. Strode and his partner try to talk them into surrendering. TT and Stoney begin to put their weapons down, and a bank security guard shoots TT. A shootout ensues where it was over.
I was so frustrated.
Stoney shoots the guard and enraged Cleo, and Cleo already been on edge this entire movie. Now she's
gone.
She's gone. And so now she opens fire on the detectives. The women eventually drive away with Cleo shooting the cops. Though TT succumbs to her wounds and dies in Stoney's arms. So the three remaining women attempt to outrun the police in vain. Chloe tells Stoney and Frankie that they have to split up. And I just want to say that was a heartbreaking scene right there. That was
the whole movie was sad.
But that was a heartbreaking scene because there was nothing to do. There was nothing to do, but they had to split up. Mm-hmm. The police find Cleo, obviously, when she gets back on the road, who proceeds to lead them on a high-speed chase until she's cornered. She drives through a police barricade. The police shoot her car and blow out the tires. Refusing to surrender, she jumps out, firing her gun, and is killed by the police. Her Ursula and friends from the neighborhood were watching this all in dismay while they're watching this all on television. A short time later, Frankie is found, and Strode attempts to get Frankie to surrender. After sticking a gun in Strode's face, just reminding him of how this all, a big part of how this all started in the first place. After that, Frankie attempts to run, but one of the officers shoots her in the back and kills her. Stoney, who managed to blend in with the tourist group heading to Mexico, tearfully watches Frankie's death passing from the bus that she was able to blend into. Strode sees her from a distance in the bus window, but lets her go, realizing the part he played in driving these women to crime, including the part he played in her brother being killed. So, in Mexico, Stoney cuts off her hair, and then she calls Keith to assure him that she's all right and thanks him. And after hanging up, she's driving away, haircut, new look, driving away with her share of the money in the seat beside her. And we're assuming that she lived the rest of her life in Mexico happy. So I tried as much as I could to get it.
Bro, you did. Yes. You did what you had to do.
Did an amazing job.
That was great.
The only part that I will say to add in there is just that because TT's character could not afford childcare, she had to bring her son to work with them. And he got into some of the cleaning products, which caused him to go to the hospital. He was fine, but because things like that happen at the hospital, they have to call Child Protective Services, which then had them take her son away until she could show that she had sufficient childcare and sufficient funds to be able to raise him. Which, child, we can get into a whole conversation about the system.
We don't have to get into the whole conversation, but sis, I'm happy you raised it because I have a statistic I have to share with y'all, okay, around this. Because let me just say, when Skylar is sick, I grease her up, dress her up. I don't there was one time where she needed to go to the hospital fast, and I still stopped to make sure she had on a nice outfit. Because we know that Black families, they will report your kids to Child Protective Services on a whim. And y'all, there's so much, but I do just want to say that it is true that nationally, Black families are overrepresented. And I'm reading an article on MedPage today. But y'all, I pulled up so many articles about this on PBS, on the Washington Post, on the New York Times. But this quote is just succinct. Nationally, Black families are overrepresented in reports of suspected maltreatment and are subjected to CPS investigations at higher rates than other families. Alarmingly, over 50% of Black children undergo an investigation by child welfare services before reaching the age of 18. CPS is weaponized against Black families. I am literally, it's a fear. And James is like, Janiyah, she doesn't have to be all dressed up to go to the doctor. But I don't know if he knows these statistics. I'm like, James, we're in danger. We're in danger. When we take her in because she is sick for legitimate reasons, the children just get sick, they could point the finger at us. It's just the facts of it, and it's just such a very real fear. And they will also call CPS if you don't take the treatments that they recommend. There's reported cases of a doctor getting to say that it's neglect because a parent opts not to take their recommendation, and take some other approach. There's just so many ways that the child welfare system is weaponized against Black people, y'all. And the numbers are just frightening. It's just frightening. And so you think about this cycle of like, being too, not having enough money to get childcare, and then think about the parents that don't have insurance, and they can't take their children necessarily in for preventative care. So when they do go in, it's because something has happened. Y'all, it's just frightening. It's just frightening.
It's very frightening. I mean, so and that's just even for, you don't even have to have kids and family to experience the foolery that happens in terms of our medical system. Like, I think about the one time I went to the dentist and I needed to get a crown put on, but the issue is that it cracked and other things happened. And so when I was at the dentist's office, she told me I had two options. And I wanted the less expensive option because, listen, teeth and eyeballs are expensive out here, okay?
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, listen, let me just go with the lesser option, which is an option that probably could have lasted for about 4 or 5 years. And then I could have done the more extensive one later on because they're both very pricey. So I said, okay, made an appointment to do the lesser option, the less expensive option. She came in and she was like, oh, did you go see the oral surgeon? I said, well, no, because it was an option whether, this or that. So I just chose this because of the price. She was like, oh, no, this is not what we recommend. You didn't say that at all. So she made it seem as if I was the one that didn't take the proper instruction. And in that moment, what do you do when you're like, you told me that these were the options. You didn't say that this was not an option and that I shouldn't do it. You said that it was an option. Well, I know for me, I'll never go back. And that's a place of privilege because I have insurance and I pay for it every 2 weeks, right? So I have multiple places I can go to. But the fact that you would sit here and have this conversation with me as if I wasn't following your instruction prior to that, I'm like, I only see this as being magnified in other situations where people imagine if you don't have an option, you're coming there. English is not your first language. And so I think about all these things that happen in these systems. And so that part for TT, when I saw that, I was like, there's been nothing any record you have of her doing something and being neglectful to this child.
Thank you.
She's not in the system. She's not any of these things.
And did you see how they didn't even want her to hug him or touch him? If they take your child into foster care and they're breastfeeding, you can't even give them breast milk. It's just all so fucked up. And
and that was the thing about each of these characters, is that they were not typically, when you're watching bank heist type movies, all the characters are just, they're bank robbers. That's what they do.
That's what they do. That's
but all of these characters were
driven to it by desperation.
Interesting from the beginning was that they were all people who are willing to work. None of them are lazy. These are people who want to take care of the responsibilities, and they're put in situations where they can't. You think about somebody like Frankie, who she's following the rules. She's like, I went, I interviewed. She says she's from the projects. She got herself into this banking system. She's working hard, and she just gets knocked all the way back down to the end, and can't even get a recommendation. So when and it was the one thing I would say about this movie that I think would have been really good. I think this could have been like a 3-hour movie. I think it could have been
docuseries.
Well, it's when you're looking at like the major, like Heat is probably the biggest bank heist movie. Like, have you both seen Heat?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, Heat is that's Robert De Niro. Guys, it's I can't.
That's all right. I'll look it up.
Anyway,
I got your back.
It's a huge name. I'm just having a 45-year-old moment right now. But anyway, but this movie, it was a movie that ended up in like the ultimate showdown type of situation, and it has, I believe, still the record for the most bullets shot in. You know what I mean?
Robert De Niro, Al Pacino.
Yes, Al Pacino. I could with Robert. So this is. And it's an epic movie, it go not epic in the sense of it was over years and years, but they really allowed all the characters time to breathe. And even though I understood all the backstories and felt the backstories and set it off, I did feel like each of these stories could have been fleshed out a little more. And like, I would have sat through that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I would have sat, because they kind of like put it into place real fast. This is the guy who was going to college. Now he's not going to college. Now she's she has a baby. Now the baby's getting sick. Now she's got her baby taken away. So it was all kind of, and it didn't feel rushed, but right, I just felt like it could have, like this could have been stretched out. You know what I'm saying?
Especially, bro, when you find out that they grew up together.
Yes.
You could have totally seen them like grow up in this movie.
Yes.
I like where you're going with that. Like, it doesn't feel rushed, like you said, but it's just like, you could have expounded totally.
Yeah,
totally. I would have sat through that.
Because imagine if you could have went on that journey with Frankie a little bit of going through that. You know what I'm saying? Going through, getting to what she had to do, and then just having it all snatched away. And I'm just saying, the movie felt very 90s. Like in the way it was, it felt very 90s. But I'm just saying, in the story, if it was shot out like that, it could have, I feel like, been up there with, like they would have put
absolutely. Like if we were to do it now, it would, because right now it's so trendy to have like a mini series.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could have been like a 6-episode
saga. Without question.
Without a doubt.
For sure. But it says something about the movie that while it is true that there was so much meat there that it could have been fleshed out, you just didn't miss it either. I was thinking about that because I was thinking about the relationship between Stoney, the Jada Pinkett character, and her brother. Right. They had like one scene together. But in that one scene, you were able to see that she had been taking care of him. She had been sacrificing for him.
Yes.
And that he, she was doing everything she could to make sure that he had a path out. And in one scene, they gave us all of that history and context and relationship. That's when something is well written,
But I will say, and this is not negative, I just felt it a bit. I felt it that it's like, we got to get all these points in to make, to set this thing up. Like, and I just, because all of that conversation, and when you think about like the story of him going through this application process and, he didn't get in, but she thought he was just waiting on a scholarship. Like, anybody who's been through that process is like, that's not how that would have went down. Like, you wouldn't have been all the way at the end and not know that he didn't even get in to this.
I don't know about that, bro. I don't agree with that, because I got to tell you, so I just recently volunteered with a program that's helping elementary school age children here in Brooklyn to understand that college is an option, you know. And through that program, I had some conversations where I was just reminded about how unique our experience was. You know, we knew what a FAFSA was years before we had to fill one out. You know, we knew, we growing up, we had a sense of the process of going to college more than some people have had, you know. So even the process of knowing the acceptance letter process, you know, and, you know, the steps to get in, I could see someone trusting someone's word that they got in, you know, and believing it. And I could, anyway, I could see, if you don't know the details of the process.
And I'm not.
I didn't feel skeptical about that. You know, I felt like her brother didn't want to let her down, and so, you know, he just kind of lied.
Yeah, and that's not like, I don't want to feel like I'm giving it an opportunity for improvement, because I didn't feel. I'm just saying, but I would be lying if I didn't feel it. You know what I mean?
In the moment,
like,
you had that.
Like in that moment, I felt like they were putting these pieces into place. Like I felt that, but. And then as you go through because I think the acting, as we get into, you know, what we're talking about, the acting was just really good, you know, across the board.
It really felt like an ensemble cast. Nobody was trying to outdo anyone. Everybody did an amazing job, even the small parts, in my opinion.
It seems like it's a pretty young cast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have a little bit of trivia about that. So this was Queen Latifah's first leading role in a feature film. She did a great job. This was a film debut of Kimberly Elise. Okay.
I saw that. It was like introducing Kimberly Elise and Blair Underwood. And I was like, what?
Wait, she was discovered she was a waitress in a restaurant.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah, that's something. Isn't that interesting? So she was discovered by producer Del Pollock at a restaurant where she was a waitress. Love that. And y'all, I will tell you, the cast was so good, and there were some familiar names that were also up for being in the cast. Brandy Norwood was offered the role of TT, but declined. Okay. Regina
but still
King
was part of an iconic song for that movie.
Regina King auditioned for the role of Frankie. Rosanda Chili Thomas.
That would have been. She could have did it.
I could have. Yeah,
she could have did it.
Oh yeah, I think Regina King can play any role in the world.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah,
any role. Rosanda Chili
Regina
Thomas.
King, we love you.
We love you, Regina King. Rosanda Chili Thomas was interested in the role of Stoney, allegedly. Okay. And this is also, you know, for Dr. Dre. This was his first, let me see, I think it was his first, you know, film as well. First time on screen. So
I like seeing people like that do things, because not saying that he's like some gangster or something. I'm not saying that. But it just, because his persona seems to be so laid back and cool. I just feel like they're like, listen, say these lines in your normal voice. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do anything extra, because, you know, we're just adding something onto how you would sound anyway.
And that goes to show how well he played the role. Because that's exactly the kind of role that people overdo and do too much.
Yes.
And he didn't
need some guns. Something. Oh. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Yeah. We don't need that. To speak to that part, I thought it was so cute. People probably don't even recognize it. But Frankie was single. Frankie didn't have any children. And so normally, I won't say normally, but stereotypically, they'll have in these situations where it is a single mom. It's these different things. And she's just like, you know, an angry, bitter Black lady like situation. And this just wasn't Frankie. She was living life, doing her thing. And Dr. Dre liked her. And so I just thought that it was so cute that he was like, hook me up with your girl. And then she like looked at him and smiled and kind of flirted with him. But it was like, I don't get down like that. Like it was kind of like a look like, you into some shenanigans I am not into. I mean, now I am. But in the past, I don't get down like that. Like, nice so I just thought that little exchange was super
and at the moment, she felt like she was a visitor in that world.
Absolutely.
She didn't feel like she was going to be a resident.
Gosh.
Man, but it'll push you to. Okay.
Let me ask y'all a question. Have you ever thought of like doing something illegal? Like, have you ever been brought to that point where it was just like,
no, I've done
it.
I've done something like that. So
no, I'm not.
I want you all to know that
as an adult,
and not as an adult, as a kid, it was hilarious. I was at a grocery store and I opened one of the bigger bags of the fun size Snickers. And I stole a fun size Snickers.
I'm telling the police.
Listen, that grocery store has had plenty of, I've paid them back. I've paid my debts. I paid back them that 1 cent.
They're probably still looking for you.
Exactly.
Let me tell you.
The Snicker bar bandit.
Now. The location is closed now. They can't get me. I'm out here on the run.
There was a point in time, somewhere in my 20s where I was in a really tight place financially, really tight. And it was one of those moments where I had a thought, like a sincere thought of like, if I knew anyone that sold drugs, had a pathway into illegal activities, I'd do it. Because I remember talking to my girlfriend, like we went down
Janai, look, can I just say one thing?
Down the list of possible
you would have either
criminal activities.
Listen, before you even get into that, you would have either been Janai would have been dead in about 48 hours, or she would have ended up being a kingpin. It would have been nowhere in between.
It's definitely kingpin. It's definitely kingpin because at the end of the day, what always happens is the lack of planning. Okay. And that's literally what I do for a living. I help people to plan. I do scenario planning. I manage risk. Okay. So literally, I would be an excellent criminal. I just want y'all to know. I might be one right now. I might be one right now.
I'm so good, y'all don't even know.
Exactly.
So you were like, if I could get into this world, I'd be in it right now.
Oh boy.
That's what you were thinking.
You wouldn't even know.
Have to hire a consultant. I am done.
Well, I was going to tell you, if there are any out there that really need some efficiency analysis, I'm your chick, because I will tell you, I'll get an organization straight. Okay. But I will tell you, I had a real moment of like, oh my gosh, like that desperation. And so I just wanted to say like, what a privilege it is that I can recall the one moment in my adult life where I felt so desperate that I was like, what can I do? And I think about that because there are people who are feeling that all the time. I mean, I'm going to tell y'all, in New York, I don't know. It is just, and I don't know how the city gets away with it. I don't know how any city gets away with it. Y'all, it is so expensive to live here. It is just, I think, expensive. And it is just a shame, and I just think about God, like, how my specific set of life circumstances have enabled me to be okay here, but to even thrive here, I don't even know how people do it at some kind of high level, because it's that, I think the way that you thrive in New York is to have the kind of generational wealth that white people have, where you didn't have
you needed a head start
because your parents were able to get a second mortgage on their house because they weren't discriminated against and they were able to get a home, that kind of thing, or your grandpa owned a business in whatever city you're from. Like, you need that kind of starting point to pay $5,000 for a studio apartment here. $5,000 a month. That's how much they cost. And the studio apartments are the size of the playpen I'm sitting in.
It's,
it's ridiculous.
I remember being in college at Tuskegee, and I remember it was like a business law class. And we were starting to have like that philosophical conversation, like, would you, if you had to? And I remember my professor like posing the question, like, would you steal if you needed to get like diapers or something like that for your family? I understood why someone would do it, but I was going back and forth with him. Like, so you're talking about who I am presently, and I was in that circumstance. And he was like, yes. And I was just like, so I can't like go to a shelter and get some help. I was like, I can't go to a local church. Like, this was my mindset. But I remember when I got laid off and the amount of time it took for me to qualify for my unemployment benefits and the fact that I did not get assistance. I did not qualify for healthcare and I did not qualify for food stamps. And I know the circumstances, if even for my siblings had not been in the circumstances that they were in, because they helped me at some points during that time. And then I started modeling, so I was able to get some other things as I was beginning to look for a new position. I don't know what I would have done. Because in those moments, all I could think to myself was, because at that time I was in my 30s. I was in my mid 30s when I got laid off. You all have to understand, I've been working since I was 14. A paycheck since I was 14. Now, and 20 years later, after I've been working every year of my life.
And imagine you English is not your first language.
Or
you're not a citizen, or you're a senior citizen, and you're trying to navigate this BS. It's all such a slippery, little precarious, like it's a tightrope. It's a tightrope, and it's like, so anyway, it's just you felt the desperation of these characters, I guess.
Absolutely.
Is what I'm saying. I personally felt it in a way where it was like, it made me count my blessings. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Because everything that happened in the movie was so plausible. I could completely see myself at that convergence of circumstances and doing exactly what those women did. I could absolutely see it.
I want to make sure that we get an opportunity to really dive in a little bit.
Oh boy, yeah, look at the time.
To Stoney's actual story, because I think her story was the one that we got to get the deepest into. Just in terms of her parents passed away, I believe, in a car accident, which had her eventually become, was it a car accident? Which had her eventually become the caretaker for her brother. And so this story is sad, even in the sense that this movie came out in 96. Ahmaud Arbery happened during the pandemic. You have these stories of Black men getting shot, being hunted. It is a shoot first, ask questions later. Just recently, a young Black man, I don't remember the full story, he got shot opening his own door to his own apartment because someone reported that there was some domestic violence going on. Meanwhile, he was in the apartment by himself on the phone with his girlfriend. When you have these shoot first, ask questions later, but now I can't ask any questions because you're dead. So now what do we do? And so that part, when he does get shot, her brother, because he just has a haircut that he just got, which was a silly haircut because he didn't even live in those projects. But he got the haircut because he thought it was cool. And so he's coming out, he's leaving out. They shoot, ask questions later. Watching Jada Pinkett, watching Stoney's character come out and hold on to her brother, and her just asking the question, what have you done?
What have you done?
What have you done? Innocent, nothing. High school student.
all of those scenes, they all killed it. In every pivotal scene,
there's no scene I would do.
Yeah, they all knocked it out the park. And just when in the end, which was another, because that was a very heartbreaking scene, obviously. And I don't know if they were trying to say that the scene we're talking about the guy, like Brittany said, he ended up getting a haircut similar to one of the guys in the robbery. I wonder if the guy did that on purpose. I couldn't really tell if he purposely got, you know what I mean, was sending a decoy out. But either way, it ended
I
up.
never thought about that, bro.
I was wondering about that because, like, it seemed like he was very intent on getting him to have that haircut. You know what I'm saying? I
never thought about that.
And and obviously,
because he ended up dead.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know.
But still.
Yeah. You know. But anyway, but that was you really felt it with her, but. To think this was such an early movie, and that was
Natalie Dessell's first movie too. I just wanted to say that she's the one that did the haircut.
Okay, gotcha. But to see Queen Latifah in the end when they're in the high speed chase and TT is already dead, and like where they're caught in that tunnel. And she's trying to figure out, all right. That just felt very, very real. You know, it just felt very, very real. And it was one of those things where even though you knew, because like I said, I saw the ending before, but even after having gone through the journey, even though it was an ending that even though I knew it was coming, it still had the same type of impact after you go through the whole journey of the movie, even though you know, okay, she's about to go break through this barricade and get shot and all that kind of stuff. But just seeing it going after you go through the whole movie, it's like, yo, they just nailed that. Just at the end. Yeah. And when she just sparked up a cigarette, like,
and also it was iconic because they had teased her about her car, Cleo, about her car and how she's been working on it for 1,000,000 years. And finally, because she got money, she was able to really get it to where it needed to be, where she wanted it to be. And so her doing the hydraulics before she,
one last
time, like I got my that whole scene. I was just like, whoo!
It was so well done.
And
it was
also,
so well done.
Seeing her girlfriend crying.
Yeah.
I appreciated seeing that because she wasn't not saying this is no shade to people who have expressed emotions really intensely, but seeing her girlfriend crying in a way that was just like this reality. I will never see her again. I won't be with her again. And when I do see her, it'll be, in a casket type of situation.
And for me, that scene was also about Black people just being so used to seeing that. We're just so almost like, it's not numb, but it's just like, it's almost like you can't even feel it as much as you want because it's like, damn, it's like, it's
Can we get too
familiar. It's too familiar, But y'all, I know we're really running over time. I have a bunch of little trivias I wanted to get to y'all that I feel we must
offer to the people. It's on you.
We must offer to the people.
It's all you,
so one of them is that half of the budget was spent on the background music for the Godfather scene. That's an IMDb trivia, and I'm like, if that's true, that's really unfortunate because that just goes to show how little these actors were probably paid. Because if you think about the amount of set that happened in this movie and the explosions and the guns and all that, and if half of it went to that scene for the music, that left what, $4.5 million to do all of those,
wow.
What is that called? Effects, all the special effects, and then pay the actors. So it just goes because they were new actors too. So they just did not get paid what they deserved.
$1,000 and a ham sandwich.
Totally. And it probably wasn't even good ham.
They probably have no lettuce and tomatoes on there.
They have no vegetables.
No cheese.
And then really quickly to go through the soundtrack, y'all, because there was some songs on here that have become timeless. Set It Off. I don't know if that's the Set It Off, sis. Because the Set It Off that's on the soundtrack, the writer is it was performed by Organized Noise and featuring Queen Latifah. Of course, we all know Missing You, performed by Brandy, Tamia, Gladys Knight, and Shaka Khan. Oh, Lord, that song.
Soon as
Don't
it
Let
starts.
Go, Love by In Vogue, Days of Our Lives, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Sex is on My Mind, Blue Light, Live to Regret, Busta Rhymes, Angel, Simply Red, Name Calling, Queen Latifah, Angelic Wars, Goody Mob, Come On, Daryl D. Light, Billy Lawrence, featuring MC Light, Let It Go, Kenneth Crouch, Ray J, Glenn McKinney, Roy Dog Pennon, Hey Joe, Seal, The Heist, The Five Footers, From Yo, Blindside, X-Man featuring H Squad.
The who?
So
the 5 footers?
It's Da, D-A.
The footers?
5 footers with a Z. Get it right.
Janai had that old album back in the day.
You see, you joking, but
she was a big fan.
I did have that soundtrack, but I only.
No, I ain't talking about the soundtrack. I'm talking about the 5 footers.
The 5 footers.
You had a T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
So listen,
I was really in for the first 3 footers. The other 2, I was like, get them out of here. But the first 3 footers, the first 3.
Before we go, because I know we're wrapping up, I just want to make sure to name the relationship between the complicated relationship between Jada Pinkett, Stoney, and Blair Underwood's character, which I don't remember his name. And just how they had 2 very different separate lives. He's been all over the country. He's a banker. He's all the things. And she had never been out of LA. And she was living in the projects. And it was something to where being able to be with him just for the short amount of time showed her a different side of life that she could possibly have.
Yeah, that was tragic. That was tragic.
Like that, you can tell that they had truly fallen in love. Even in the short amount of time, it didn't take much time when it is like you're someone. That's right. Even in certain circumstances, I love the fact that when they went to that banking event, she didn't have to change who she was. She was herself, and her personality was able to shine through. And her still have a good time and not feel out of place, if you will. But even in that, just getting a chance to see her, they had a conversation about Mexico, and that's where she went. Which one thing I did always wonder, I was like, did they already buy tickets to Mexico because they were already planning to get away, or was it just because they were all trying to get to the bus station? So I was like, they had to have looked up that previously. If
I was a part of their gang, yes. All logistics been tightly taken care of. There was strategy.
There were a few little things that could have been
strategy A, strategy B, and strategy C.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, there were definitely a couple of things that could have been tightened up like that about the plot. And that's so overall for me, it's like this is for me. I guess we could pretty much get to it. But
I have one more teeny little trivia, and then bro, take us to the vote. Y'all, there was a book written by the co-writer of the film and creator of the film, Takashi Buford. She wrote a book called Stoney's Story, the much anticipated sequel to the film Set It Off.
Oh
wow!
So it's supposed to be what happens after.
It's what happens after, and it's a book that came out in 2020.
You know what? I am conflicted. I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted. Like I want to know so bad, but I want to not. Like I like the feeling of not knowing in this.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. If it was great, it would be great. Yeah. But if it wasn't, it would be really like,
Well, I got to tell you, it only has 32 reviews on Amazon, and it's a 4.6 out of 5. And the first review says, this book deserves to be on the big screen. It's a sequel to the original movie, Set It Off.
Well, I think you should read it and then tell us if. I think you should read it, Janai, and then tell us if we should read it.
I should.
I'm looking up. On Amazon, it's $0 if you have a Kindle.
So, all right, take us to the vote, bro. I just had to get that out there. If you want to know what happened to
I'm
Stoney,
looking at it
the
right
creator
now.
of her character has the answer to
Has
your
the
question
answer.
available.
Well, yes, this is. First of all, I'll say this movie was fantastic. Truly, and it really this movie made me feel real emotion, and it's one of those things where I think it's so good on it's something I wouldn't want to mess with, but at the same time, I would love to see this story stretched out in like a with like some of the elements more realistic, like a real, because like one of the, I would say the biggest heist movie, like I said, is Heat. And the thing about Heat is that they were really doing the training with the guns and all that kind of stuff to make it like a real situation. You see what I'm saying? And I would have definitely liked to see that type of realism played out into this. You know what I mean? It would have been really, it'd have been really, I think it would have been one of the, not just favorite movies, but one of the top just movies in general. Like, I feel like it would have been in the conversation with all of the, you know what I mean? The historical top movies that people talk about, because it's more relevant now than it even was then. You know what I mean? So anyway, so it absolutely gets my janitorial was it uniform?
Janitorial uniform.
Yeah, my janitorial uniform is definitely a classic.
Well, bro, I second everything you said. Yeah. This movie definitely gets my janitorial uniform. And there's another reason, in addition to the fact that it is like, man, oh my gosh, the acting. Great. The story. Thorough. You know, just tight. The direction. Woof. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't change anything. And I always, like, I'm the one that's always like, in my mind, I'm like, I would have done it. I wouldn't tweak anything. I thought it was great. I thought it was
so much with so little.
That's the thing. But there's another factor here, which is that this was a female-driven heist movie. And I had done a little Google about like female heist movies, like, you know, and on IMDb, there's only 18 listed. So that just goes, and they include like Thelma Louise, you know, right. Bonnie and Clyde, Jackie Brown, Fish Called Wanda, you know, it's Ocean's 8. You know what I mean? So this is like so the point is like to have 4 Black women at the lead of a heist film and for it to be so well done, it's just wonderful. Now I will say the writers of the movie are a white woman and a Black man. Just putting that out there. I would love to see a heist movie written by Black women, starring Black women. What would that be? OMG. So anyway, yeah, definitely gets my janitorial uniform.
I wonder, would Mad Money with Queen Latifah, Diane Keaton,
they have it on this list.
Is that considered a heist movie? Okay.
It's number 14 on this list on IMDb.
Okay, because it wasn't as dramatic, but it was still fun. And
it's a heist.
Fun and it was a heist movie. And those women they had met some things going on with them too. But for me, overall, this definitely gets my janitorial outfit because of everything that was said prior. But also, I love any movie that sparks a larger conversation. And to my brother, who often makes this point that they don't point it out, right? It's not like, you know, and this is the statistics of this. They just show it. They show it, and it brings a larger conversation of what is happening with CPS. Yep. What is happening when someone is doing what they're supposed to and pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps? What happens when someone comes and cuts those bootstraps? Yep. What happens when someone doesn't see themselves, so they're not able to see outside of just their small neighborhood? That's all that they can see. What happens when they're able to see more and they're able to dream? I was just in a meeting where we're talking about, what is it, Maslow's hierarchy. I know I'm saying it wrong.
Needs. That's it. Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
The largest part is the physiological needs, and that is at the bottom. If those needs are not taken care of, you cannot get to the top of the hierarchy, which is self-actualization. You can't get there. So if these bottom parts are happening in this movie and I have to rob a bank
And there's a
able...
systemic undermining of you getting those needs met.
Yes.
They just don't happen to not be met. There are things happening to conspire against your ever having those things met.
Yes.
And one thing that was interesting to this point is that they were talking about $15 an hour as a salary point in 96. And this is still a conversation around the same dollar amount in 2024.
And $15 an hour can barely even get you groceries, honey.
But they were saying that back then. I'm saying they were.
And there are so many high rises in New York that where people are paying $5,000 a month. They're paying it. The high rises are sold out. So the money is out here, is what I'm saying. People have money. They have it. And we still don't have a livable minimum wage that is living.
Bro, and both of these things that up, because they talked about how that plant was there and they were making money and then they closed that plant. Even just in a neighborhood we grew up in, there was a Nabisco plant. You used to be able to smell it for blocks. It smells so good. Now it's gone and Google is there and all these other things are happening. But that was, so many people were able to buy houses and things like that off of living in these places. But anyway, I just say all that to say, if you can't get to a space of being able to just take care of your physiological needs, your security and safety, you can't get to a space that says, I can do more. I can have more. I can be anything. I can own the bank. I can do all these things because these just very basic things are not being met. Mm-hmm. And so the story pulled us in to a space of saying these individuals are doing exactly what they can to get those things met because they were doing everything they were told that they were supposed to do that would give them the American dream. And then they find out that the American dream was never meant for them. So this movie is amazing. It was top notch. And I will watch anytime it comes on. I do plan to watch it again. So.
Well, there you have it, folks. Set It Off is a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thank you for joining us for another discussion, y'all. We have 6 more episodes before we wrap as a podcast for now. And we're looking forward to being on that ride with you. So be sure to tune in with us, y'all. Bye, everybody. Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love y'all.
Bye, guys.